What is it that Hamas wants to achieve? I mean, what is it? I mean, Trevor Phillips says that people voted for Hamas as opposed to Fatah, to the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. They voted for Hamas knowing that they would be much more hardline. So what is it that they want?
I hope what Trevor's not saying is that by voting for Hamas, those who voted were in some way are now deserve, or the punishment, collective punishment that is now being espoused.
No, that's an outrageous
let me finish.
thing to say.
Let me finish.
That's an outrageous thing.
You know that's not what I'm saying at all.
I very much hope not. But the point is that this cycle of violence is going on and on. The fact is that the Palestinians have lived under occupation, and Gaza
They're not under
has
occupation.
been.
They have their own state.
The
Gaza
nonsense.
is a state,
That's nonsense.
and it is run by Hamas, and they had one election, which, as Trevor said, the people voted for Hamas. Hamas then killed the opposition, and they've never had an election since. But they could have a state. If they wanted a state, they could have a state.
Let Rushanara finish her point. You're saying that they are living under occupation.
There seems to be a bit of amnesia here about the history of what's happening in that region, and the fact that Palestinians don't have a state. They have, lived under occupation. They've lived under attack, and what we need is rapidly, in order to secure peace, which is rapidly eluding this region. We need the international community. We need leaders in America and European Union to work together to resume negotiations and to first of all bring an end to this conflict.
Well,
and
the end of the conflict will be fastest brought about by Hamas being thrown out of the West Bank by the Palestinians of the West Bank, or by any other force available. We've got to remember this: the two-state solution, such as it is, and it's a dream, but it's still a possible dream. If you talk about the West Bank,
do the Israelis genuinely believe in that?
Yes, I think they do with the West Bank. The thing that is a problem, and is an irreconcilable problem at the moment, is what you do with Hamas, which wants to annihilate the Jewish state and does not want peace. That is a problem.
The real problem here is the agenda is now being controlled by people who don't want peace, whether it is the settlers on the West Bank or it's Hamas. That's the problem. How do we wrest the agenda out of the hands of those groups of people who, by the way, are not states? These are gangs.
Sure, and unfortunately, Gaza is run by a gang.
Let's leave it.
Well, that became feisty and fiery right from the beginning between Douglas Murray and Rushanara Ali, Labour MP, and Trevor, who's there from the government as well. And so we found this in the dustbins of the archives of the BBC, and that's what's on tap for you today. And we're going to get to Douglas Murray and his answer and the feisty combatants in just a few seconds. But before we do so, you're watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nasir, where I give you my political prescription from my political perspective of what happens when all these things collide: culture, government, policies, social media, entertainment, Douglas Murray, Labour MPs, all of that, the BBC. Let's get to more of that right now.
Has Israel disregarded humanitarian and international law by going into Gaza in the way they have?
No, not at all. Apart from anything else, the very muted response, and indeed in many cases a very encouraging response for Israel from the international community, is, I think, testament to the fact that it is playing not just by the rules, but by the most stringent rules imaginable. The reason why the casualties exist in the Gaza is obviously because Israel is trying, as an operational objective, to stop Hamas and other jihadist groups from firing rockets into Israel. In order to do that, Israel is carrying out a very, very targeted campaign. Now, it is inevitable in that civilians are going to be killed as well. And one of the reasons why that is happening, excuse me, if I can just finish, one of the reasons why it's targeted, because they are trying to get the launch pads that the rockets are coming from. Now, one of the reasons why there is a problem from this, of course, is that Hamas has, and incidentally CNN has the tape of this, among others, has been encouraging the people of Gaza to, quote, protect the houses of Hamas commanders, to actually congregate around areas which the Israelis have dropped leaflets and texted civilians to say this area is going to be hit. Hamas has actually tried to maximize the casualties. So that's the first point. As for how this is to be stopped, I think there's a very important thing that we do not, the international community does not simply perpetuate this conflict in trying to stop Israel from achieving the operational objective of stopping the rocket fire. The international, this is the third time now that this has happened, and I would suggest
it's more than the third time.
No, the third time there's been this exchange since 2007.
Right. Okay. I mean, we'll look at the operational and what.
As I said before, very interesting debate. You literally could take that debate, put it in today's news cycle, and nobody would know that you were talking about something that happened a decade and a half ago. Because this continues to go on and on and on. And as Noah rightfully said, this was allegedly now, but let's just say the election was on the up and up, and the Palestinian people decided that instead of going with the PLO or Fatah groups or other groups, they decided to go with Hamas, and they democratically elected Hamas, knowing full well who Hamas was, and that they were, borderline, maniacs, basically. They were terrorists, no doubt about it. They were a hardline group. They know what they have done in the past before. And so, not that they deserve it by any means, but elections do have consequences. Elections have consequences, no matter where they're at. And unfortunately for the people of Gaza and the Palestinians, those consequences have led to the death and destruction of many Palestinians when it really shouldn't have been. And as Noah said, the thing is always framed around the fact that Israel and then casualties. There's casualties on both sides. Yes, there's going to be more collateral damage, obvious in Gaza, just because of the predominance of the population around there. But the fact of the matter, you have to ask yourself this following question, which is, what is Israel to do, and what would you, as a state, as a nation, what would your proportional response be to somebody raining down rockets on your country, on your city? That's a question I just have to ask for anybody out there. But everybody goes back to, we have to go back to 1947. We have to go back to the United Nations was created. We got to go back 60, 70 years. No one's going back there anymore. What happened has happened. You have to deal with moving forward until Hamas decides to lay down their weapons and to basically, take the white out, go to their constitution, their charter, and take out the fact that they want the destruction of Israel and the eradication of the Jewish people. They take that out of their constitution, folks. Israel has a right to defend itself, as would any other country. We appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your host. My name is Dr. Nasir. If you haven't done so already and you like our content, please share with us. If you don't like our content, let us know it as well. I love to read those negative comments to see what people are saying out there. And we'll leave you with my final thought before that. Check out our video links here and there. My final thought is always, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, take care.